How hot those temperatures will go later this week. And as we continue to track the development of Tropical Storm Erin, we bring you the weather extra on the climatology in the tropics and when we typically see our first hurricane of the season. And we take you around the world to places that were impacted by extreme weather over the weekend.
Live on your side. First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
But first, check this out. Rodney Frazier sharing video of a ray there in Florida. The dolphins just enjoying a nice little swim in that warm Gulf water. And of course, they're trying to beat the heat like we are, which actually the clouds and the rain certainly helping us out with those temperatures here over the past few days. And we certainly appreciate you staying with us here for Weather Extra. We're going to talk a lot more about those rain chances. Have really ramped up out there. We're still tracking some of those showers right now. Let's get right over to the headlines here as those showers continue over the next couple of hours. Might be a rumble of thunder out there. I'm not seeing many storms today with those lower temperatures, but we could see a few more of those, especially later on this week. Those afternoon storms as that heat builds, that's going to add some instability. So starting around Thursday, Friday, Saturday, once we see more areas in the 90s, could have a couple strong thunderstorms. So they could be popping later this week. And then we're tracking Tropical Storm Erin, one of the big weather headlines that formed today. AccuTrack at the moment, you look at this and you see a lot of areas are thinking, well, hey, there's not much rain at all out there, but there's these tiny showers. When you flip over to the base scan, you can see there's quite a few of these out there, and they're moving east to west, and it looks like another little surge here. Basically, these are tropical downpours. There's a disturbance over the Gulf, and we told you here last week about that system that was near the Bahamas that we were watching. That's what's moved across the Gulf, and it's actually bringing us that increase in showers, and once we heat up tomorrow, we'll see more of these. Right now, though, one location, there's a couple areas where we're seeing some heavier pockets of rain. There's one that moved through Maplesville. You see some reds and yellows there on the map. Rain really coming down right there along Highway 82 that just passed through the Maplesville area, popped up between Maplesville and Isabella. But again, you see how that flow is sort of reversed there, east to west. So you check the radar, east to west moving rain. And then I'm tracking some pockets of wet weather here not far from Asheville, moving back in the direction of Highland Lakes and over towards Whitney Junction. So a first alert there around Straight Mountain for a little bit of rainfall. And this is some of the heaviest rain we've seen all day right here. Pockets of rain around Ashland, Lineville, moving in from the east out of Randolph County. This is moving in the direction of Chandler Springs. Waldo, if this holds together, may make it over Mount Cheaha and back in towards parts of Talladega County, but there could be some lightning with this. So stay alert with the First Alert Weather app for the threat of lightning. And speaking of the weather app, you probably got that notification from us earlier today that Tropical Storm Erin has formed, and it's developed way out over the eastern Atlantic. This is the Cape Verde season, as we call it, heading into towards that peak of hurricane season, and Erin is expected to make the track across the Atlantic. This is the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. Could grow into a powerful Category 3 hurricane, but as we take a look at long-range data beyond the outlook there, long-range guidance suggesting over the weekend and into next week that system could start to turn north out over the Atlantic around a ridge that's over the Atlantic. So if it can kind of find that weakness in that high-pressure ridge, it'll turn north. But we need to watch it as it becomes better organized, because these systems, as they in their weaker stage, sometimes the models don't have a good initial handle on the positioning. So we'll watch it over the next few days. But notice that no Gulf impacts expected for this weekend. But speaking of the tropics, of course, we've been watching all these systems out in the Atlantic over the past several days. This is the one that could actually grow into a hurricane. But meteorologist Matt Daniel joins us now with the Weather Extra on the general climatology for this time of the year, when we typically see the first hurricane of the Atlantic season.
Well, as you know, we got our next named storm this morning. Tropical Storm Erin formed around 10 o'clock, and that makes it our 5th named storm of the season. And as you know, hurricane season starts June 1st. It ends at the end of November. So here we are, and you can see we just continue to see more activity as we go into late August and into September. September 10th is technically the peak of the hurricane season. So a lot of people are wondering, so far this season, has it been slow? Is it inactive? What does it mean? Well, when do we usually see a tropical storm form? So usually the first named storm of the season typically occurs on June 20th. Well, Erin is our fifth named storm. Typically, the fifth named storm occurs when? August 22nd. So, as you know, we're a little bit earlier on that timeline. This is just based off climatology and on averages over the past several decades of when we typically see those hurricanes. Finally, when it comes to when do we usually see that first hurricane form, well, the first hurricane typically forms around August 11th. And we are forecasting Erin to become a hurricane, so we're right there. So we'll see if it will form into a hurricane later on this week. Usually the second hurricane of the season happens on August 26th. So right now, just looking ahead, of course, Erin's way out in the eastern Atlantic. When you get into August and September, that's usually when you start seeing hurricane season ramp up the farther east in the Atlantic Ocean. So when you have storms this far out, we have a lot of lead time, lots to watch. Synoptically, what I mean by that, we look at the big pattern. Is there a ridge of high pressure to the north blocking the storm from moving north and away from the United States? Is there something, a weakness that could allow that storm to move out and stay away from us? So there's a lot to look at. And when you're this far out in the Atlantic, there's a lot of territory. So we're talking about 8+ days of lead time to sort of figure out where the storm is going to go. Of course, as it gets closer to land areas for the United States, when it gets towards the Lesser Antilles, towards Puerto Rico, when it comes to the part of the U.S., Florida, the East Coast, the Gulf, we have about maybe 4 to 5 days before that storm makes its way into the United States. And of course, by the time it gets closer to the Bahamas or Cuba or in the Gulf, that's when we start having 2 days or less. So we've got plenty of time to watch this. A lot of the models that we look at have this thing recurving out. Definitely something to watch if you're in Bermuda. We still need to watch it for the Bahamas, and even for the East Coast, something to watch over the next 7+ days.
Taking you across the country now to places seeing severe weather over the weekend. Check out the scenes from Milwaukee where major flooding and flash flooding covered roads and stranded vehicles. The fire department performing dozens of water rescues. We've seen so many scenes like this over the summer. One rain gauge measured nearly 14.5 inches of rain in just 24 hours, which could break the previous state record. A state of emergency was declared on Sunday after the Milwaukee River crested to more than 11 feet. And in Nebraska, severe storms blowing the roof off of 2 housing units at the state penitentiary. Winds were as high as 90 miles per hour on Saturday morning, which also left tens of thousands of people without power, of course, with all that wind. And officials with the penitentiary say there were no reports of injuries. In 30 seconds, we talk about what you can expect for your Tuesday and take you beyond the atmosphere to the newest NASA mission that will help us discover Earth in new ways. We'll see you after the break. Right now, tracking some scattered showers across the area, mostly south and east, but there's some heavier rain now moving through parts of Clay County. We go in here for a closer view. You'll see that rain there as it's moving in towards Harkins Crossroads. Might see some lightning with this. Let's go over to our lightning detection, and we'll try to get to that here coming up in a few moments. But right now, what we want to do is we want to take you around the world, taking you to where firefighters are battling blazes on Mount Vesuvius. Video showing planes and helicopters dropping water over the flames while firefighters were on the ground. And we're doing the same. Italy's Civil Protection Agency says helicopters responded to 18 wildfires, and they've been raging for days as the country's been experiencing a heat wave and drought. Wildfires in Portugal also causing fire tornadoes. This is some video. Look at that, just incredible there. When you get those different temperature contrasts, you get those vortices that can set up. It's kind of like when we see land spouts, we see water spouts, and of course, any type of turbulence there. But this comes as emergency workers attempt to extinguish multiple wildfires that started over the weekend. The fires were fueled by temperatures reaching up to 109 degrees, and Portugal is under an extreme heat alert until at least Wednesday. And you may remember the story of the meteorite falling across parts of the southeast earlier this summer. Geologists at the University of Georgia have been examining it, and they've determined the meteorite to be more than 4.5 billion years old. That makes it older than Earth itself. Researchers at the university will continue to conduct tests on the meteorite. Other pieces that fell will go on public display, and that will be at the Telescience Museum in Cartersville. It's designed to provide one of the most detailed views of Earth ever. The Dan Smith shows us how a joint space mission will track changes on our home planet in your moment of science.
3, 2, 1, 0.
All L40 engines generating nominal thrust.
July 30th, 2025, a rocket launch from India's Satish Dhawan Space Center sees two countries embark on a joint project for the ages. India may not be a country you picture much for space exploration, but this undertaking may well change that perception.
NISAR is a much more capable mission than either the U.S. or India would have been able to field on its own.
NASA's Director of Earth Science says that the NISAR mission will deploy the most sophisticated radar that either country has ever put into space.
With its almost 40-foot antenna, it will be able to see changes in the Earth's surface of about a half an inch over areas the size of half a tennis court. It transmits the pulses from both antennas. Those pulses bounce off the surface of the Earth, and then that same antenna catches those return pulses.
The big dish almost looks like a giant catcher's mitt folding out for maximum efficiency. It's technically a spacefaring 2-for-1 deal, with two radars operating through the same antenna 464 miles above us.
They can see through vegetation, and they can see changes in vegetation. So they will give us an unprecedented view in all weather, day and night, from glaciers to subsidence, that is land sinking a little bit.
Passing over the same areas at regular intervals, NISAR will produce more data than any other NASA mission to date at 80 terabytes per day, available for free to the public. There's a lot still to discover about our ever-changing planet, and a more distant yet high-res view is a great way to do it. Predictive models are crucial, giving people enough lead time to make long-term, daily, or even life-or-death decisions.
We'll be able to see the bulges before a volcano erupts, or those early indicators of shifts that may tell us an earthquake is happening. We can also detect destabilization that is a precursor to landslides, and even changes in the glaciers and snowpack in the mountains that provide the water that communities downstream, ranches, farms, and communities need.
NISAR will work in tandem with other projects for a high-tech fleet of Earth science satellites, like the SWAT mission for the ocean surface and the PACE mission studying things like algal blooms and air quality from afar.
It allows us to connect these different parts of the Earth system and understand how the whole Earth works together.
Dr. St. Germain is not only looking forward to answering questions, but discovering new ones to ask about our home planet.
When we are able to translate this scientific information into actionable information, really excited about all of the possibilities that this one-of-a-kind mission opens up for us.
After some calibration, NISAR is slated to begin operations sometime in early fall. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
And speaking of space, one of the big stories this week, the Perseid meteor shower, we'll tell you about after the break. And don't go anywhere. We also talk about the building heat for the rest of the week. We'll see you after the break. Hey, welcome back into Weather Extra. Those clouds helping to keep the heat under control across Alabama today. The highs in the 80s out there, but also tracking some more showers. You can see closer to Birmingham, from Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Anniston corridor, what rains on the radar has started to sort of fade a little bit. We're still hanging on to some pockets of heavier rain where it's a little bit hotter to the south. You get down into Chilton County, seeing a nice old downpour that move east to west, not far from Maplesville across Highway 82, and also tracking some heavier rain now. Seeing a lightning strike right there. So we do have some storms pushing through Clay County around Lineville, and the way this is holding together and moving back in the west direction, if you're anywhere from Munford back to Talladega along that Highway 77 corridor, giving you that first alert as some rain's moving in from the east. But wet weather tonight by 10 o'clock should settle down, and another night with temperatures in the 70s. Some leftover cloud cover might catch a few breaks out there later on tonight. Notice in the morning you can see that some rain, certainly a possibility early in the day, not just the afternoon. That's one of the big changes here. Watch out in the morning. Don't be surprised if you see a lightning alert on the First Alert Weather app, and we'll see a good coverage there during the afternoon. This is from the HRRR model, just one of the forecast radar outputs, and it's showing better chance east in the morning, better chance west during the afternoon. But the showers should settle down tomorrow night. We're coming up on the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. It's one of the premier meteor shower events that we see throughout the entire year. In ideal conditions, you can see up to 100 per hour, but we still have coming off of a full moon that's going to wash out some of the faint meteors. But you might see, and it's often around these events, we see reports of those bright fireballs in the night sky there. So if you look to the northeast, the peak viewing is going to be during the early morning hours, but especially Wednesday morning. But look to the northeast direction towards the constellation Perseus, of course, for the Perseid meteor shower. But hopefully some breaks in those clouds tomorrow night. It does look like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that upper ridge starts to tighten up its grip on the region. It looks like for the end of the week. So we did back down on those rain chances just a little bit Thursday, Friday, but cranked up the heat. Highs back in the 90s. Heat index could top 105. If we still see temperatures coming in a little bit hotter over the weekend, we may need to call First Alert weather days for some of those dangerous heat index levels. You can certainly see some of the early projections there showing around 105. So stay tuned on that. We're also tracking, I mentioned Tropical Storm Erin. What you're looking at is the projected wind fields with this. It's a very tight, compact system at the moment, but notice how it really grows here, and it's expected to become a major hurricane, the first hurricane of the season, and it's expected to eventually turn according to some of the long-range projections. But with it being so soon and still a system that's sort of getting its act together, we still need to watch it in case. Sometimes I've seen with these systems, as they intensify and as they strengthen, even though we expect it to turn north, the overall track shifts further west. So we got to watch that. But again, major hurricane expected. But if you're traveling down Saturday and Sunday, you don't have anything to worry about Saturday and Sunday down along the coast. This will not be a factor. This would be more next week, if anything. So that's what we're going to be watching in the long range. And as we go beyond the 7-day here on our 10-day forecast, you can see those temperatures in the next week, the weekend, in the low 90s, but they sort of level off next week. So we even though we heat up, we don't continue to heat up next week. It looks like those temperatures in the 90s, and again, a few of those afternoon storms. But as we talk about heat, well, mapping research continues in one state where they're hoping it can help residents and those across the nation with building temperatures this time of the year. Fox News' Ted Linder joins us now to take a closer look at what scientists hope to do with their findings about temperature differences and why it could help cities handle all the hot, steamy conditions.
Summer is known for the heat, but with scientists continuing to warn about how the impacts of human-caused climate change are predicted to make average global temperatures even warmer going forward, researchers are trying to gather data about how cities can adapt their infrastructure to be better prepared for the possible impacts.
The question that we're really trying to solve is, what can we do about it? Right. So what strategies work? How can we cool the urban environment?
Using special sensors on bikes and electric vehicles, researchers at Arizona State University have partnered with local teachers to track changes in temperature across several cities, including Tucson, Tempe, and Phoenix.
We're going to ride it around on some trails, collect some data from there where we otherwise wouldn't be able to with our car-mounted sensors.
So far, their real-time heat mapping efforts reveal parks with shade can be more than 5 degrees cooler than neighboring streets.
Can we intentionally design landscapes and buildings that add less heat the environment.
Teams say understanding variations in heat can help cities boost their buildings and green spaces' resilience to hotter temperatures.
If we don't do the research now to try to understand what works and what doesn't work, we can't inform the next generation of materials, the next generation of strategies, and we'll be stuck where we are today.
Officials also hoping their findings can help other communities in the U.S. and around the world reduce the risk of heat-related illnesses for their residents.
It's going to help society, it's going to help neighborhoods, it's going to help people, human beings. And I think that's the most important thing.
Ted Lindner, Fox News.
Well, coming back, we're going to talk a bit more about where we're seeing some of that rain right now. We'll show you the 10-day forecast, walk through the weekend outlook. We'll see you after the break. All right, and some incredible photos that you have shared with us on our free WBRC First Alert weather app. And by the way, we're streaming right now on the weather app. That lovely view was from Lisa, and that was a lovely sunset. Some incredible colors out there. Stephen McElroy sharing this supercell near Hugo, Colorado. So we got some First Alert weather watchers all over sending us back storm photos. Doug sharing the sunset in Chelsea Park Ridge. Gary Ernest, this was the full moon, also nicknamed Sturgeon Moon, the full moon of August we're coming off of. John and Becky Patton, sunset at Panama City Beach. What a view there. Brendan Parsons, lovely sunset in Manhattan, Kansas. So lovely view there. Wow. And out there cutting some hay, and I know we have a lot of folks around here trying to get some hay cut probably, and we've been tracking some scattered showers. We got some rain. You can see moving in right now. There's a storm. I want to go to this one that's over Clay County. That's producing some lightning. That's moving in the direction of Talladega County from the east direction. So anywhere from Talladega over towards Winterboro, Waldo, Munford, just a weather alert that there's some storms tracking in from the east direction that we're keeping an eye on. Not severe, but that threat for lightning is certainly there. Afternoon storms likely tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. Not just the afternoon, though. Tomorrow could see some rain early tomorrow morning, so check in right here on Good Day Alabama. We could be tracking some wet weather early in the day, but towards the end of the week, we heat up into the 90s. Still could see some afternoon storms, and with those kind of temperatures, probably see some strong storms towards the end of the week, some strong storm advisories. So we'll have to watch out for that. It looks like we have a visitor.